Hi guys. Oh, it's been cold where I am here. -2 this morning and a frost on the ground. And I want to talk to you about breathing and the 90-second rule. Breathing is vital for life. Look at the coronavirus and how it kills those who are most at risk. News about the need for ventilators every day. And now we have to stay 2 meters away from each other to stay away from each other's breathing. But there is a breathing that can lead to life in the midst of this. That's what I want to talk to you about. You might notice your breathing when you're watching the news or scrolling through social media. The chances are you're going to be holding your breath as your body responds to what you're seeing take place and its effect upon you. And that's the first place I want to start with. There's this thing called the 90-second rule. A neuroanatomist, Dr. Jill Bolt, wrote about this. You can Google her. And there is just this reaction that happens when we're triggered by things for fight or flight. For 90 seconds, there's all these chemicals and hormones that rush around our body and try and prime us to do things, and there's almost nothing we can do about that. But after those first 90 seconds, we find ourselves often caught in emotional loops, and there's things that we get stuck in and we can't get out of, and fear and panic and worry. So there's this trigger, our body responds, there's all these chemical reactions, but there are these loops, and you're probably finding yourself at the minute, you're being triggered many times per day in ways that you are way beyond what you would be normally, and getting caught in these loops and wishing that you could break out of them. Now, if we don't break out of those loops, what happens is we do break out of them. And a few things that we often do to deal with them. One is we'll drink more alcohol, eat food, distract ourselves, numb ourselves. But ultimately that doesn't work. And then there's an outburst, this emotion that just builds up. And that's where many of you are probably finding yourself crying more, arguing more, fighting more, and there are ways to just dissipate and break these processes that we get caught in. But there are other ways. There's a really simple way, I want to share it with you this morning, to break out of these loops so we can notice them, break out of them. And the more you do this practice, the more you'll find you can stop getting caught up in these loops. Now, the process of interruption for these loops after we're triggered is a simple thing, and really all it is this, is to notice when they're happening and observe them. That's it. To notice, I'm caught in one of those loops, I've been triggered, and to look at it, to look at the anxiety and the panic and the fear and the anger, and to use, basically we use a different part of our brain. Once we start looking at things and noticing it, we're putting some distance between it and we start to observe it. And as we watch it, those things will start to subside. And the more you practice this, the quicker you can be at noticing this 90-second thing happening to you and do something different in response. It won't stop the feelings. This whole thing is not to stop those feelings. You can't stop them. It's just about noticing them and letting them go somewhere else and doing something else with them rather than being caught up in them. So a couple more things. With me, I've suffered anxiety all my life, general anxiety disorder. A lot of that came from significant and sustained abuse as a kid, and I had to be perpetually primed to look for dangers, for safety. But what it meant was things around me would trigger me, and I would get caught up in these huge loops, and ended up in my late 20s into my early 30s having massive panic attacks in the end. And panic attacks, if some of you are having those, are completely normal. They're a way to try and break you out of this loop. So these things are normal, they're part of our struggles, but there is something else we can do to get out of them. And I've been learning to do that. I have learned over the years, and I'm practicing it extra specially at the minute. I notice the rush of anxiety and the spiral of catastrophizing that I have. And what I do is I've got a couple of things in my head when I notice it. I just like hit a huge red pause button, go boom. Or another thing is a big glass bell jar. Imagine it coming down around me and suddenly everything goes quiet. Basically, you find your own thing that just lets you go, bang, this is happening. I want to stop. I want to pause. Hit the pause button. And that's what I do. And then that allows me to make space for feelings, and then I can observe them and I describe them. Is it big? Is it small? Is it strong? What color is it? And all those things are just ways to put some distance. And then what happens is I tell myself, there's my disaster story. There's my end of the world story. There's my I won't be able to cope story. Just call those things what they are. And somehow they become things you're looking at instead of things that you're caught up in on. So the key to doing this is to take some steps. So hit the pause button, and it's this. Again, this is from the neuroscientists. It's to stop and pause. Then it's to breathe. Breathing is vital to this. To breathe in and breathe out. as we notice our feelings. And then, there's those feelings. Okay, it really is that basic and that simple. Now, last thing I wanted to share with you is this. It's interesting how breathing is important to getting out of these loops and responding. Just doing that breathing alone, just to hit pause and breathe and notice, will help you, even if you have to do it 50 times a day. Okay, better to do that 50 times a day. All these things, these emotions are going to be happening to us and we're caught up in them. What we can choose is to practice something different. Now, breath prayers, breathing, has been a vital part of Christian spirituality. Before scientists ever discovered this process that takes place and the need to breathe and deal with stress by breathing. Some of you may already have calm apps on your phone and you know about mindfulness and breathing, and there's all this research that's been going on noticing the importance of breath and interrupting what's happening to us. But long before that, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, maybe even 1500 years ago, Christians had noticed something, that our body, our soul, our mind and our spirit were all interconnected, and that breathing and focusing on breathing during prayer was one of the most powerful ways to center ourselves and open ourselves before God. And it's not that the prayer is just a mechanism. It's actually, if you think about it, it's the way God's wired us, body, soul, mind and spirit, to be open before him. Jesus, when he went to the disciples and they were really anxious, what did he do to them? And Jesus, on the night of the Last Supper, he said he breathed on them. Breath, presence in every way. So it's not a substitute for God. It just shows the interconnectedness with God. So we can use breath prayers to respond and interrupt these 90-second overwhelms. So when they happen to us, and the simplest one is known as the Jesus prayer, or the prayer of the heart. And early practitioners would repeat the rhythm of their breath to this phrase: Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And over time that got shortened, and it's easier to remember then, isn't it? Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy. Or you could go Jesus, mercy. Jesus, mercy. See? Simple. And in fact, you can use your own words. God, help me. Jesus, protect me. Whatever you want to do, okay? And then it makes that space. So watch your breathing and pray. And as you do that, observe your emotions. The goal's not to change your emotions, just to let them be and to observe them. So let me know how you get on. And by the way, in our My Church website here, Facebook page, we're going to have Wendy Sullivan, who oversees our prayer, will be doing some prayer practices for us, including more stuff on breathing prayer. So bless you. And today, as you get caught up in things, breathe.